Did you know that athletes are some of the most influential people on social media? In fact, in 2020, a study was conducted where over 30,000 pieces of sponsored content was analyzed, and it was found that athletes drove 3.3 times the engagement. So I sat down with Nate Behar,
What's going on, y'all? My name's Nate Behar.
a CFL athlete for the Ottawa Redblacks and founder of FireWork, an NIL marketplace, to have him explain why.
Being a pro athlete, getting paid to run around in spandex is like pretty damn desirable. There's an envy for what you sort of do, and then usually the products and things you're talking about are actually helping or amplifying what you do. So there's a level of trust of like, oh, this arm sleeve that Patrick Mahomes puts on and throws sidearm with in training in the offseason, like if he's wearing that, I obviously should as well.
In today's episode, we'll be discussing how and why Nate first started his NIL marketplace, why athletes are so influential, the challenges and fears that can often come with brand and athlete partnerships, how you as an influencer can price yourself, and what makes for a successful or unsuccessful brand campaign. Let's dive in. You founded a NIL marketplace because you recognized that brands love to work with athletes for a couple of different reasons. But you thought there might have been a better way to do that. Like, give us the origin story. Tell us a little bit about what FireWork is and how it started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, the origin story is a fun one. In that it actually started not so much because of my athletic side of life. It was just I happened to be friends with some hardworking people, I guess. So I had 3 different people over the span of 3 weeks or so all reach out to me with the same question. It was, hey Nate, like I'm launching a CPG brand of some sort. One was bracelets and eyeglasses and stuff like that. Another one was Himalayan salts that go in your it was crazy cool. And each time the question was the same thing. It was, hey man, like when it's time to go to market, can you connect me with some of your CFL buddies and some of the guys play in the NFL and stuff like that to market it? And I'll give them free product and all this stuff. And first time you just say yes. Second time you're kind of like, okay. And then by the third time you get that same request, and it was in less than a few weeks, you're like, what's going on here? There's something cooking. So I actually kind of took that, and it was the off season, which anybody that's ever knows anything about football, your off season is long. You're 6 months on, 6 months off. There's only so much FIFA you can play in a day. So I figured, hey, I got some time. Let me kick into this problem and, sink my teeth in, do some research, and sent out some surveys to some of the athletes I knew, to my friends, and just like, I know you got an agent for some of them. Like, I know you got an agent. You get enough brand deals? No. I know you don't have an agent. Are you getting enough brand deals? No. Where do you go? I don't know. And it just became very, very apparent that it was just like the Wild West and the dark, shrouded mystery of an industry. So we sent our teeth.
How much can you share with us in terms of like, the CFL, it's obviously not the NFL where there's billions of dollars going into that market. But like in my mind, the question that comes to my mind is, are brand deals something that athletes really focus on to supplement their income? Like, is every player in the CFL being like, okay, I need to get some sort of brand deal? Or is it just like some guys do, some don't? If it comes my way, I'll do it, but I'm not pursuing it. Are there dedicated people that are helping them for this? Like, what's the overall state, or maybe what it was like when you first got to the league?
Yeah, so I think it's very few and far between that capitalize on it. I'm sure we'll talk a little about university and NIL and how that's all changed. CFL is in a lot of ways the players, it's someone in the same place in that, like, some guys get it. There's guys who are backflipping with barbells and stuff, cough, cough, Shy Ross and all that are making amazing content, that are killing it and can make a whole bunch off the field and all that. Where I think the gap is that guys that just have a good following and like ridiculously good engagement, all this different stuff, I don't think they realize how close they are, like the proximity to very literally creating a second income that could support, mortgages and such, as not even a full-on content creator. They don't even need to be Tristan Ross to be able to do it. It's just leveraging what they have. So it's actually few and far between. It's one of the reasons I'm so excited about bringing FireWork to everybody in the CFL and making opportunities. We've started, and it's a good feeling.
Okay, and that's kind of where I would assume things are. And I like that you point out that not everyone. In my mind, there's 3 ways to be involved in this thing. We're starting to hear called the creator economy. The first one is to be the influencer, the face. I would argue that athletes tend to be more of this, fall into this part, this number one, because if they're in a commercial, they're the one on the camera, they're the face, they're the celebrity, right? But then there's 2 other ways that you can also monetize within the creator economy. And that's the second one, which is actually how I support my make a living like full time, is I create content for other brands to use and people don't even know I'm the one behind it. Right. So I'm self-taught. I learned video editing. I study social media platforms. I understand formulas and scripts and the ways to tell stories that kind of catch people. And so people hire me to do that for them. The third way would be the Matthew Demchucks of the world, someone who's helping the creator, either one or two, manage their business, do the accounting, send invoicing, set up meetings and scheduling and all that kind of stuff. So I love how you point out that just because you're an athlete, and when we're talking about the creator economy, you don't have to know how to edit videos and film TikToks and be the one dancing. Like, just you need to recognize that you have a level of influence just because of where you are as an athlete. But before we continue, let's dive further into why athletes are so influential and what kind of value can they provide to brands.
No doubt. I think there's something. I mean, I think it's layered, multifaceted. Maybe would be the way I would describe it. One of which is that people who are coming to your social media, and this is social media specific, like some of the people that are coming to your social media to hit follow, they've usually found out about you through another trusted source. So that's through TSN, through ESPN, Sportsnet, seeing a highlight on House of Highlights or whatever that is. They're coming to you with a level already of an admiration and respect for what you do. It's already baked into the brain. This person is at a level of which is worthy of respect at their given career path. So that's one. Then there's the whole idea, as well of athletes, especially when we start to think about the major sports. There's just a lifestyle and things that are attached to it that's like that brings a little bit of that cachet as well. Not unlike the more traditional influencers who get to live on yachts, half the year. It seems like a lot of different stuff. Being a pro athlete, getting paid to run around in spandex is like pretty damn desirable.
Right.
So that's the other one. And then lastly is, and a little more specific to like the products and the brands that athletes usually align with, is like you have this respect for being great at something.
Okay.
There's an envy for what you sort of do, and then usually the products and things you're talking about in the right relation, in the right partnerships, are actually helping or amplifying what you do. So there's a level of trust of like, hey, this isn't just someone talking about like a random beer that like you could drink any of the 40. It's like, oh, this arm sleeve that Patrick Mahomes puts on and throws sidearm with in training in the offseason, like, holy blank, if he's wearing that, there's like if he can do it, I obviously should as well. So there's just that extra sort of level of influence. And it shows in the data. I mean, it's proven.
Well, and that's the thing, like people, like fans love to watch their favorite athletes because with the one, they're obviously in awe with them, but then like they try to go outside and recreate what they're doing. And like, they're so like, they're on like athletes, professional athletes specifically are like these superheroes of our society because they're physically dominant. They're smart, they're in shape, they're disciplined. And so people look up for them for all those kind of things. And then they have that influence for the kids who want to be like them as well. What can you tell us about, I'm thinking of like the business owner that's watching this, or like brands who might like have heard of this thing of like how important it is, like influencer marketing and what like athletes can do for their brand. But why should a brand work with an athlete? What can the athlete do for the brand, and maybe vice versa?
Yeah, absolutely. The right relationships, it's kind of that final point I was just touching on. The right relationships with an athlete like lend a sense of credibility to brands that is hard to reach. I think that in this day and age, and our Lord's year of 2022, or wherever the heck we are at the time of filming, that influencers are still wildly effective. Like don't get me wrong, any stretch, but we're definitely more accustomed to it. A brand having somebody speak positively about them online is, it's not new. It's not terribly exciting. It's if you're following somebody because you trust their opinion, it still works great. Whereas with athletes, as I mentioned, as long as when it's an athlete aligned brand, especially whether that's food like health supplements, activewear, performance wear, etc., there's just an added level of credibility that goes far and away above. 2020 study was done. They studied over 40,000 sponsored content posts. I think I've told you about this before, Tristan. Over 40,000 sponsored content posts, 3.3 times more engagement happens for athlete posts. That's over the NBA. So that's over the NBA's Twitter account versus the Raptors Twitter account versus, lifestyle influencer or a travel influencer, et cetera. Athletes just provide better or provide better engagement for brands.
The individual compared to like the organization of the Raptors, like Scotty Barnes has a higher engagement rate than the Raptors account does.
Absolutely. And then also I'd bet my entire life savings he absolutely blows out of the water any lifestyle influencers, any food influencers, any fashion influencers at a similar follower clip. Like for instance, we've done some work with Ohio State and the athletes there. You know, you're looking at kids with very literally 50K, 100K, 250K, 300, 400K followers, and they have like 18% engagement rates. I don't even think that they can conceptualize that. Whereas the industry standard for like their follower bracket is like 3.5%. Is like a good influence.
Wild. All right, so you're an athlete with a highly engaged following online, and you believe you're at a point where you think you could start delivering real value to brands in the form of partnerships. But where do you start? Well, there's two outstanding questions that we need to answer first. Where do you find brands to work with, and how do you know how much you're worth? Before FireWork existed, what was the process of going out and getting these brand deals for athletes themselves? Like, how does this work? Do I need to know someone at a company? Can I just like, are they going to discover me and I got to sit back and hope it happens for myself? Like maybe what's the process that you take athletes through to do this?
Yeah. So 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, I would say get really, really, really damn good at your sport. Grow your following through any of the, normal ways, like just post a lot.
And shameless plug on the content series. If you want to learn how to grow your following, go check out Savannah Hamilton, go check out Jamie Lee, go check out Albert. All these people have grown their followings to hundreds of thousands and millions of followers. So Nate, continue.
Absolutely. Yes, I mean, 5, 7, 10 years ago, just grow your following naturally, do well in the field or on the court or wherever you are, and they're going to come find you.
Okay.
Now, the reality is there is so much content being produced, so many people growing their following so well, and so many people especially if we're talking to athletes right now, there's so many people in athlete aligned niches. So sports, trick shot artists, obviously fitness creators, all these different things that you can't really, unless you're Andre DeGrasse or you're the star player on the NBA team in your city or WNBA team in your city, you can't just sit back. You have to be a little bit proactive. So one of the things I'll say is like one of our best, giving away some of our secrets, but one of our best sales channels, like it's an over exaggeration, but like Instagram, man, like especially when you're at the level of, even myself as an influencer, it's like the person who's running the socials isn't that far away. You're not DMing Coca-Cola and hoping to get to the head of partnerships, but when you're DMing a challenger brand, a supplement company, somebody who's under 100 or so employees, like if they don't handle it, they're 2-3 steps away and they're gonna look at your profile and have a good feel. And just don't be afraid. Send it out. Have something baked up in your notes that you're like, this is what I used to like to say. Here's a little bit about me. Boom. And then lastly, now that FireWork does exist, you can get a free media kit or your free profile made in our platform. Literally take the URL link, pop it into any of those messages, and any brands that we don't have access to and you want to reach out to, you'll see all your social media stats, any media you want to add in there, your bio, your accomplishments, etc.
Right.
That is a shameless plug.
I wanted to add a few cents in reaching out to the right brands, right? So I would say that you can't just go to, because I've tried this. I remember first moving to Toronto, I was like, okay, I think I can make these videos. I want to go to local businesses and say, hey, I'll make you some free videos or whatever, because I want you to pay. Eventually, I want to make some income off this. Let me create content for your social media. Well, I went to about 5 different places in my neighborhood, coffee shops, pizza shops, and all of them were like, no, we don't do that. A lot of them didn't even have social media platforms. The best way that you can get in contact with someone who's likely to say yes to you are companies that are already doing it. And the best ways to do that, there's a tool where you can search up every single ad on TikTok right now. And the best way, all you got to do is go through that website, type in your niche, and then you'll see the types of brands in your niche that are already working with influencers, right? So there's literally approaching the right company, the right brand matters. So break it down, like how does an athlete know what they're worth?
Yeah, so we have a proprietary formula that we use, which will, if an athlete wants some support, we'll usually help them with that. But then there's factors that are hard to put into an algorithm. For example, we've done some coming out of Beijing with, a couple athletes that had just won gold. That's, their algorithm that's focused on just their, social media stats, et cetera, isn't going to be perfect at that point because there's obviously a premium. You're you're negotiating. So I'll break it down sort of how it would go. It's like, so brand's going to get an idea of what they're looking for. Whether we send out that feeler or they post to the platform and athletes apply, et cetera. And it's kind of gets narrowed down. We figure out who's interested because of like the product and all these, all our different qualifiers that we go for. They're into it, then we kind of go into negotiations. Sometimes the athletes are going to just take it alone if they want our help, especially at this stage. We're happy to jump in and sort of play the role of the nice agents. Just kidding, all agents are nice. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And so we like to come in and help. And it's rarely that. Hey, what are the deliverables? If it's one post, great. We're looking at one thing. If it's 3 posts over 2 months, is another thing. If it's 4 posts, then also, another thing that's big for the athletes to have an awareness of, and if any athletes are watching, I hope you think about it in your next deal too, is like usage rights. If the brand's going to get to use that, maybe you're working together for 2 months, but they can use it for another 12. It's a lot of value. Brands spend a lot of money to go get content places, to hire a photographer and all that stuff. If you're giving that to them on top for 12 months, and they're also using your name, another huge thing you have to factor into that. So we just you have to factor that all in. A very, very, very rough, easy one I'll give away in terms of finding your value. It's like 4%, assuming you have a solid engagement rate, 4% of your followers is kind of like a per post thing on an Instagram or so.
And an engagement rate, what's considered an engagement?
Yeah, likes, comments. I believe most people now we're throwing shares in there as well, because there's a lot of the number of engagements are exploding. That's just Instagram too. TikTok,
great.
A million other ones. So
of course. Okay, that makes total sense. And it's nice that you're providing this service to like help these athletes within their negotiations. Like FireWork isn't just a place like a free-for-all Wild West where people come in and try to have to do everything themselves. It's like, do you have people on your team or yourself or someone like helping with the communications?
Yeah, absolutely. So just full chat and everything through the platform as well. So you can chat with either us or the brand or all three. We could do a group chat. But yeah, if anybody has any issues, they have, myself and then Morgan Burkhead, who's, head of our athlete relations, is sort of the rock star who's always plugged in for any emails at any time from the athletes to chat or any messages to the platform. So definitely always there for that. Because it's not easy. I mean, this is one of the big things, and similar to the other point is like athletes just, you want a gold medal in Beijing because you're one of the best in the world at what you do. This is not necessarily what you do. So who would expect you to just be able to figure it out? That's not what we ever want to do. So we're always going to be there for them. We're athlete first. Naturally, our brands know that as well. They don't ever get to think that we're going to, negotiate in their favor by any means. So
that's right. So now hold on. Hopefully everything by this point is starting to make a lot of sense. You're gaining some confidence. You're like, I could do this. But there's some of you out there who are probably thinking, there's no way I could do this with less than 5,000 followers. That seems impossible. Wrong. With the emergence of the micro influencer, you actually may be more valuable to a brand than someone who has millions of followers, and it all starts with a media kit. Here's why. Media kits. What's a media kit? Why is it so important, and how does that help you bring money into your pocket?
For sure. So media kit is really your digital resume in a lot of ways for especially for you as sort of a endorsement ready athlete or personality, let's call it. So there's a million different ways to do that. Our solution is going to be have your biography. What do you like to do? What are you about? Especially what are you about sort of off the court as well. Feel free to plug your accomplishments. You're an athlete, why not? If you're a 3-time, U Sports All-Canadian, if you're, 10-time chancellor of the world, whatever the heck your accomplishments are, let them know. That's your place to brag. Then of course, one of the biggest things that media kits need to have, especially in our day and age, is social media metrics and data. So what that's usually gonna be around is your profiles that you're active on. So that's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, things like follower count, how much content do you produce a week, your engagement rates, some of your audience demographics. That's a big one that, you might not necessarily know, but you can head to your Instagram right now on your own. You can head to your TikTok on your own, go into your insights. You also get to see the breakdown of your audience. Hey, my audience is actually, majority of between 18 and 34 in Ontario. Great. Well, that is valuable information to have because maybe it's a brand in Ontario that's trying to do something. They're putting together a pop-up shop in Toronto. Hey, this is why I'm a great fit for you. Take a look at my media kit. The bulk of my audience is right here for you, because the big thing that will happen, especially with the larger celebrities, et cetera, if you went and hired LeBron James right now as an example, or Cristiano Ronaldo with his 300 million followers, and you wanted to target people in California, well, you're paying for about 290 something million followers that aren't in the target market. So knowing that information is powerful for brands.
And I love how you brought that up, because that's why there's an emerging opportunity for people that have less than 10,000 followers. Like, I think of university students. If majority of your following, let's say you have 2,000 followers, it's likely that, one, you have a high engagement rate, because those 2,000 should be mainly real people that follow you and know you, right? Because I mean, you can look at stats. I think Jake Paul got exposed for having 10 million followers, and 3 million of those were like bots and like not real people. But the emergence of the micro influencer is a real thing, where brands want to work with these people for that exact reason. It's because you can communicate, these are the people that follow me, and it's likely that if you promote your product or service with me, those are the people that are going to see it. So you're getting your money's worth for sure.
Exactly. And I mean, brands, for people, out there might not know, like, brands are fully aware of that. Like, micro influencer campaigns, we're actually in the process, it's dropping, I'm checking the date, I think next week. A pretty decent scaled 15 small athlete micro influencer campaign with a supplement brand or a vitamin brand here in Canada. Because it's like, okay, well, we could spend X on like 1 or 2 people. But again, who's that person hitting, versus why not put that same amount of money into 10 to 15 that are so excited about it too, that are enthused to have this partnership, that are excited about the opportunity. And like you said, the 2,500 people they're talking to, or the 3,700 people, or the 1,500 people are people that if they saw them on the street wouldn't call them by their first name because they know them. And if someone random came up to you on the street and was like, hey, buy these vitamins, man, you'd be like, okay, leave me alone, call the cops. But if your friend on the street was like, dude, can't lie to you, these vitamins are changing my life, I'm going to sleep like a baby, this is amazing, you're like, sweet, thanks for telling me, I might give them a try. And brands get that, and that's why your following is not too small, I promise you.
That's right. And okay, I love that. And that's why I like to say, especially with clients that I work with, they're like, wow, like, I really wish our followers were higher, or like, look at their brand, they don't produce the same quality of content that we do, and we're smarter than them, but why do they have so many more followers than we do? It's like, in my mind, followers can often be a vanity metric. It makes you feel good as the person to be like, oh, I can show off and I have more followers than this person. But if you have a lot of followers and your engagement rate sucks, doesn't matter. It's not valuable for people where it matters. Like, the way of the creator economy is to monitor the economy, right? It's like, there's got to be an exchange of value, money, sometimes product with brands. So don't let the follower count impact what you're doing and say, oh, I can't get these deals because I don't have enough followers. No, study your audience, who you are, look at your own influence. And if you know that a lot of people message you about the things that you already post about, it's like, oh, think about that. It's like, it's just having a business mind, right? It's that's all it is. Okay, so now as an athlete, you know that preparation is key, and working with brands and brand partnerships and marketing campaigns is no different. That's why I got Nate to explain to us what are some of the key things that make a successful brand campaign.
There's an acronym I accidentally stumbled upon for the word SAIL, which is hilarious and so corny, but I do think it's true. It's shared ethics, vision, beliefs. I really think beliefs is probably the best word for it. It's aligned audiences. Usually it's long lasting and it's equitable. And so what I mean by that is, you and the brand need to be similar. Brands are people, right? Like, they're living, breathing things. Disney is the classic creator or magician, really. It believes in everything can be created, etc. You have Jeep, which is like the outlander and the badass, and his rules are made to be broken. You have Nike, that's your classic hero. Anything is possible through hard work, etc. Like, every single brand out there has this personality to it, and the best campaigns align those things together. I think the easiest example is like Old Spice, the Joker, the comedian, right?
Nice.
You can't be an athlete working with Old Spice. It can't be a little dry and witty. I mean, you can, but it's gonna feel weird.
It's gonna feel off-brand.
Exactly. If your post with Old Spice is you just like taking a selfie in the mirror, unless you're incredibly funny and made that selfie hilarious, like, everyone's just gonna like, and then past that, it's aligned audiences. If I'll keep using the Old Spice example, if you have 71% female audience, maybe you were on like The Bachelor or something, And you're trying to work with Old Spice. I mean, how are you going to drive results? I don't think that they're making very many female first products these days.
You know who I recognize does this really well, and I think they shifted. I don't think they started out this way, but it's Manscaped.
Yeah.
And I think I don't quote me on this because I don't know for sure, but something tells me that they started out having like a dude in the commercial, and it was focused on the man because it's a man's product. It's for your package. It's doing all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure they were in the board meeting. Okay, we got to get a good looking guy and say that I use this. But then I think, I don't know if it was Gary Vee or someone was like, yo, you got to switch that. Put the product in the female, a great looking female, and say that I love when my man is groomed and clean and everything. And like, that makes total sense. That's a line because the guy is going to buy the product to groom himself so he can impress the hot girl in the commercial.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And if you were to think about that as well, like an influencer campaign, it's like a lot of the cases, and all I do is look at data half the day. It's like that girl that would be talking about that, that would be doing the voiceover, et cetera, that maybe repost is like a lot of those followers are going to be the audience Manscaped is trying to hit. Exactly. Right. And then long lasting, I mean, shoot, the marketing stats are simple. It's like it'll be 5, 6, 7 touch points before someone's ready to make a purchasing decision. So I see brands all the time. We're just like, well, I'd love to get a product in their hand. And like, let's get a post out. And I'm just like, sure, but why? Like, what do you actually think is going to happen there? Do you think that I'm going to be on, riding the bus, or I'm going to be on a flight to, to Edmonton? I'm going to see someone post and just go, oh my God, buy.
Doesn't happen.
Like, that doesn't happen. That's not how humans work. And then equitable is just, that's how everyone's going to do their best work, is when, everyone's sort of bought into it being, fair compensation both ways.
Now, of course, just like anything else worth having, there can be some challenges and fears that come along with brands and athletes working together. Luckily for us, we have Nate here who's extremely experienced in partnering brands and athletes together. And so he laid out some of the biggest challenges that he sees throughout this process. What are the biggest challenges that you see, like brands like being hesitant to throw money at these athletes? What's stopping athletes from making these campaigns work? What are the challenges that you're seeing so far?
I'll start on the brand side. I think it's twofold. One is, and they're both about money. One is sort of, hey, let's start off with like a month or two of a deal, and like we'll just like look at the ROI after that. I'm like, okay, but what are you tracking for success? And it's like, oh, well, we'll just track how many people could use our discount code. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not going to work, but sure, if that's what you're going with, then I'll just tell the athlete only expect 2 months, because that's just not how this works. It needs to be, it happens. Let's pick an article. Let's say a pair of running shoes, from a new brand that's not Nike or Adidas or whatever. Like, it's not that I'm ready to buy running shoes when I see Tristan post about it. It's not that I'm ready to buy running shoes the second time Tristan posts about it, but it's when I'm ready to buy running shoes, I go, I actually love that dude Tristan. I remember him talk. What were those ones that he was talking about? And then I'm not clicking on your UTM link. I'm probably not using your discount code. I'm just ready to buy running shoes. And what you've done is, and you put it into my brain. So you always say that to brands, like, there's stuff that you can track. Like, are people visiting your website? Is that traffic up? That's important. Because now at least you're seeing a little bit of intent in the process. But yeah, the direct sales is always just fun to me. And on the athlete side, I think I'll say one that I think some athletes, it's a hard truth for them to think about when they look in the mirror, is like, athletes are afraid to put themselves out there a little bit because sometimes we're afraid of rejection. Let's be honest. I'll say it as an active one, and I'm sure you've dealt with it as a content creator.
You know what's funny? Even as an athlete, I had no problem playing in front of like 2,000 people.
Yeah.
But then people would be like, oh, you're like school presentation, like class presentation. This must be a breeze for you because you play in front of 2,000 people every night. And I'm like, no, it's completely different. I'm so comfortable in the spotlight when it comes to like being on the field or being on the court. It's completely different. So I understand that as an athlete, like putting yourself for criticism because social media is cringy. TikTok is cringy. I don't want to be that guy dancing in front of the camera. Like, people are and it's so easy. You get the trolls and your friends are sending your videos through the DMs and like they're making fun of you in the group chat. So I get it completely.
Yeah, 100%. And there's that, and there's the added layer too of like, if I'm an athlete and I say, hey, I want to work with you, brand X, BioSteel, then if BioSteel says no to me, I'm like, like,
100%.
Rejection. It feels like I'm back in JV getting cut from volleyball or something, So I think that's one of the big things too, the athletes need to just say, shut up, man. It's okay. Like either get rejected or don't, but give it a try because you get 3 no's and all of a sudden, your next deal you get is going to make you $6,000 for, 3 hours of work. And then the one after that's going to be $8,000 and then 10. And, another one actually too is like too many deliverables for the athlete. That's tough. Like knowing, so like I've seen it where, people want like two posts a month or post bi-weekly for like set amount of time. And eventually it's like the athlete's attention span goes, the audience's attention span goes, and the quality kind of goes down. And it's just like, why don't we get the same amount of posts, but just spread it out over 8 months instead of 4? You're actually gonna get more out of that because it's just more organic and authentic, and you're also just gonna get more effort than everybody. So my those are them, like just spending on what's hot without thinking about it, and then like trying to give too much to your audience and to your athlete and their audience, sort of like in a crammed space.
That's not surprising because we've seen it with the crypto market, we've seen it with the NFTs. It's the acronym FOMO. It's the fear of missing out. NIL just gets launched. They think it's this new magical thing because everyone's doing it, and you hear about the big deals, you hear about the successful deals with the people with millions of followers. So you do need to be strategic about it, and it all comes back to your guys' fundamental principle of pairing like-minded brands and athletes that align. That's what's going to make these all things successful for both parties, right? So Nate, that's fire. I think that's super valuable for the audience, both sides. There's a ton in this episode, so I'm really excited for people to listen to this. If you made it this far, show us some love, give us a like, comment something, go show Nate some love for sure. And we're signing off. That's the Athlete Creator. Peace.